The regular meeting is called to order at 7:30. Okay, thank you. Just quickly, Kim Bragg unfortunately couldn't be here with us tonight, so I, Neve Grano, am sitting in her place, so please bear with me through this meeting. And Kim, we wish you a speedy recovery. Wendy, could you read the meeting notice?
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have an advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Sparta Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be advertised by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Sparta Board of Education office, 18 Mohawk Avenue, as designated by the Board of Education for posting of such notice in a public space. A written notice was emailed on January 8th, 2021 to the Daily Record. I don't think that's the date. Is that the right date?
Yeah, that's right.
The Sparta Independent, tapintosparta.net, and the Township Clerk specifying the date, time, and place of this meeting.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mrs. Bragg. Mrs. Grano.
Here.
Mr. McGovern.
Here.
Mr. Morris. Mr. Pelesci.
Here.
Mrs. Sealander.
Here.
Dr. Serrano.
Here.
Ms. Sorensen.
Here. Everybody could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on, district recognition. Do you want to do that now? And the presentations? Or
Yeah.
do you want to do that in your part? Okay.
No, we can do it now.
Okay.
We'll start the meeting with a presentation of our students, our JETS Upstander students. The JETS Tackle Bullying Program, presented by Bethpage Federal Credit Union, is a collaboration with Stomp Out Bullying to tackle all forms of bullying by raising awareness, providing tools for educators, and preventing bullying for kids and teens. To date, the New York Jets have hosted 5 educator symposiums with over 1,000 educators participating, conducted 25 school visits, reaching over 10,000 students directly since 2015, and donated over 1,750 Stomp Out Bullying educator toolkits to schools with the potential to impact nearly 800,000 students. Additionally, the Jets have provided more than 27,000 tickets to schools for incentives for students who are upstanders. The Jets define an upstander by the following quote: "When you see someone being bullied and or cyberbullied and you help them, you stop being a bystander and become an upstander." Being an upstander demonstrates the great citizens our students are, and those students have been recognized by their respective schools over the past few weeks. At this time, I would like to call up the building principals to present our upstanders with their certificates. These students already earned recognition by the New York Jets by receiving t-shirts and tickets to a Jets game.
Good evening, everyone. I am Joe Leone, the principal at Alpine, and we have 3 recipients from Alpine School. Avery Caldwell, come on up, Avery. Alexander Hansen, I'm not sure if Alexander's here. Come on up. And Braylon Tantillo. Oh, yep, come this way. All right, come on up.
Good evening. I am Katie Zackowitz, the school counselor at Mohawk Avenue School. From Mohawk, we have Cheyenne Turry, Callahan Kiff, Kendall Barlow, Zach Silbernagel, and Robbie Cartstow.
Good evening, I'm Doug Lehman, principal of Helen Morgan School, and I'm proud to announce our Jets Upstanders for Helen Morgan School are Anthony Sorrenti, Wyatt Ulrich, Dominic Sportelli, Lucia Salmon, and Colette Petrock. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Frank Jabori. I'm the principal at Sparta Middle School, and I'm proud to present 5 students from Sparta Middle School who earned the Upstander Award. Our first student is Michael Louie. Devin Craig. Adeline Turtoro. Brody Diamond. And Cole Dumper.
Good evening. My name is Ed Lazzar. I'm the principal at the high school. I'd like to thank the Jets for all the service work that they do in the classrooms and in the community. I just wish that they did some better work on the field. And our upstanders are Ashley Louisant, Josh Ermias, and Bryn McCurry. And Shannon Ferguson, she's not here with us tonight.
Oh my God, look at that little one. She's so cute.
And then you can move on to the student reps.
Okay.
Well, when they're on.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Just making sure we're on the same page. So.
Great job, everybody. Thank you. All right. Are the student representatives here tonight?
I didn't get an email.
Oh, great. Come on up.
You should get an email.
Good evening. I'm Chris Burns. I'm the executive historian. So basically, since Thanksgiving is like next week, we're going to assess the situation about a week after for a winter formal inside here at the high school. In addition, we do have some upcoming events with the winter holidays. So we have a rally of the classes. So this is going to be like a volleyball tournament in everyone's PE class. We also have a Find the Courage toy drive, and then Spirit Week, which is from the 13th of December to the 17th. That's going to be another upcoming event near the winter holidays. And then starting December 1st, we're going to have a friendly Deck the Halls competition. Thank you. That's all.
Great. Thanks so much. Okay. Moving on to 7.1, could I get a motion for approval of the minutes?
Motion.
Thanks, Krista. A second?
Second.
Was there a second?
Yeah, there was a second, Wendy. And discussion? No? Okay. Roll call?
Ms. Brano,
Yes.
Mr. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Palush,
Yes.
Ms. Seelander,
Yes.
Dr. Serrano,
Yes.
Ms. Sorensen,
Yes.
Now, the superintendent's report?
Thank you. I would like to begin. The first matter I'd like to discuss is our DPR submission. So every 3 years, our school, and every school district, every 3 years, gets monitored for the state monitoring, which is known as QSAC. And as I said, that happens every 3 years. 3 years ago, Sparta was monitored, and we are up again. So that process begins with us forming a committee and going over the district performance review, which are indicators that fall under different categories, such as instruction and program, fiscal management, governance, operations, and personnel. The district committee met, and we completed our own self-assessment, which is the next step. Tonight, with the board's approval, we will accept the self-assessment, which I can submit to the county Department of Education tomorrow, and they will look it over so it shows what we scored ourselves at under each indicator. And then when the County Department of Education comes to visit our district in March, they ask for proof of those things and how we scored ourselves, which we have. So the monitoring will occur the first week of March for QSAC, but that is something that we have been working on and will continue to working on. The district scored well on our self-assessment. If you look at our self-assessment, you'll see scores for instruction and program that have to do with our state assessments. The County Department of Education will provide those scores for us. We can't provide those for ourselves. And like I said, the DPR submission is on this evening's agenda for approval. Next topic is a COVID update. First, I'll start with a testing update. We have been testing now for a couple of weeks under the Executive Order 253, and the testing has been going well for our staff. We have a company that we have contracted with. Their company is called LabQ, and they come in weekly. You may have seen their vans in our parking lots. Those vans are LabQ who come in to test the staff. Those vans are not in our parking lots to test anybody but staff. We are not testing students, which has been a question that has been raised. Also a question that has been raised now that vaccinations are expanding into the 5 to 11-year-old range. We are, of course, still not vaccinating our students. That is a family choice. More on the COVID update. We're hoping that with holiday travel and the holiday season approaching, that we do not experience an uptick of COVID cases in our district. But should we experience an uptick as we enter the holiday season, we'll address them accordingly. We do have measures in place for quarantine instruction for affected individuals. We have emergency plans in place if the affected individuals become bigger groups of people, and we have to close down classrooms, or even bigger than that. We have plans for mass remote instruction, provision of meals, communication with community. It's all in a board-approved plan that was from a couple months ago. There is no, I just want to let people know that we are prepared should such an event occur. And you can find those emergency plans on the district website along with the COVID dashboard. I would like to recognize Dr. Jane Esposito at this time. I am pleased to announce that Dr. Jane Esposito was notified by the Sparta Municipal Alliance that she has been awarded the Governor's Council of Alcoholism and Drug Abuse Volunteer of the Year Award. Dr. Esposito stated that she is really very grateful for working with the Sparta School District and particularly with the Align Alternative to Suspension program. Dr. Esposito had presented here 2 board meetings ago about the Align program, and it has allowed her for many opportunities to give back to the community. So congratulations, Dr. Esposito. An update on strategic planning. As many of you know, we are going through a strategic planning process with the Osnado Group. Mrs. Rossi and I have been meeting regularly with Mike Osnado and his team to ensure that they all have the information they need to complete their report. The board committee has met regularly with Dr. Osnado and his team. That committee is Craig Paleschi, Krista Sorensen, and Kim Bragg, as well as myself, have been meeting regularly with the team. And we are still on target for the date of November 30th. That is the date that, by that date, the Osnado Group will present the Board of Education with their report, and we will move forward from there. The fall play has once again returned to Sparta High School. We are excited to welcome Sparta High School's annual fall play, which returns this weekend. This year's play is Middletown, and it runs Friday evening at 7 p.m., Saturday evening at 7 p.m., and Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. And I'm excited to attend the Friday evening show myself. On to athletic recognition, and starting at the middle school, I would like to recognize the Sparta Middle School cross-country teams, both boys and girls, who both won the Sparta Invitational. And that is the equivalent, that's about as good as it gets as far as a county type of invitational. And both our boys and girls teams won that middle school invitational. The NJAC football meeting, I don't have NJAC awards tonight. The NJAC football meeting was postponed due to the tragic death of a coach in Ramapo. So the football awards I will be able to share with you next board meeting. But the NJAC has released their awards for the other fall sports. So please bear with me. We have a lot, which is a good problem to have. Boys cross country, Anthony Lane, first team. Adam Wood, second team. Daniel Maher, honorable mention. Girls cross country, Ashley Crane, first team. Shaylin Murphy, second team. And Eva Hughes, honorable mention. Field hockey, our field hockey team won the NJAC Sportsmanship Award. Sophia Candelero was first team. Nora Monahan, first team. Casey Coleman, second team. Allie Hollywood, second team. Sophia Di Stefano, second team. Rachel Leitner, honorable mention. Our volleyball team, who I shared their team accomplishments last board meeting, we have individual accomplishments for this board meeting. Bryn McCurry was first team. You saw her as a Jets upstander on the stage before. Ariana Paleo, first team. Peyton Simpson, second team. Arilyn Solis, second team. Emily Smirnoff, honorable mention. Boys soccer, Jeff Bischoff, first team. Dylan Barry, second team. And Jack Mariziti, honorable mention. Girls tennis, Alexa Makuski, first team. And Gabby Canzaniero, honorable mention. Girls soccer, who just finished their season yesterday after a tremendous run. The girls soccer team won the first sectional title in the school's history, so they were the most successful girls soccer team in our school's history. And the individual accomplishments for those ladies: Kate Mazzella, first team. Juliana Dolinsky, first team. Abigail Pearson, first team. Ella Collins, first team. Uma Kowalski, second team. Abigail Connor, second team. Shauna Ryan, second team. And Lily Wiegand, honorable mention. I also want to congratulate Coach Marciano for earning his 100th victory as our football coach. That victory occurred 2 weeks ago in the playoff game. Coach Marciano was also selected as the New York Giants' Lou Rattino High School Football Coach of the Week for Week 10 of the football season. And lastly, and certainly not least, I would like to congratulate Mr. Shannon Benson, who is on this evening's agenda to be appointed to the Executive Director of Personnel and Pupil Services position. Mr. Benson currently serves as the Vice Principal of the high school. Mr. Benson brings with him to this position many years of administrative experience and served as a sergeant in the United States Army prior to his career in education. Mr. Benson's qualifications, demeanor, and work ethic stood out among the applicants for this position, as he was the top selection following 2 rounds of interviews. We are excited to welcome Mr. Benson to his central office position, where we are confident he will continue to help the administrative team take our wonderful district to new levels. And Mr. Benson is in the crowd tonight in the back. Congratulations, Mr. Benson. And I would like to turn it over to Mrs. Rossi for an update from her department.
Thank you. I wanted to just share a quick couple of things with you. The first is that we are starting something called Parent Academy, which exists in a lot of different places. So just quickly, what that is an opportunity for shared learning experiences. The majority of them will be opportunities for parents and students, parents, guardians, students to come together to connect over a district initiative or priority in hopes that we can enhance, obviously, student learning performance and success. So on the website, underneath the curriculum page, there is a new link you'll see. It's called Parent University, and it brings you to a calendar, a little bit of an explanation that I just shared, and then a calendar of events. The first event that we have on there is on December 8th. It's a virtual event from 7 to 8 p.m. There is a link there, so you can access the event right from that calendar. And it's a speaker who has been a former director of admissions at an Ivy League college, Dartmouth College, for almost a decade, and she wrote a book called Valedictorians at the Gate, Standing Out, Getting In, and Staying Sane While Applying to College. It focuses, the talk will focus on demystifying the application process, but also humanizing the experience to understand how to begin to, navigate those roads. So we're looking forward to that. She's currently speaking at Del Barton, Pingree, Saddle River Day School, and is traveling on the Northeast Coast and spending a lot of time at boarding schools in different areas. So we think it's going to be a good kickoff, and we invite parents and students of a high school audience to attend. The second thing I wanted to just speak to very quickly was the goal of bringing our computer science standards, computer science programming into our elementary schools. So that's an exciting task that we're working on right now. We're vetting resources and we're looking at different pilots. We're considering schedules and personnel to determine what that looks like. Right now we're working on that as a supervisory team, and we have plans to bring in teachers at different times to get their feedback and also to get direction on where they might see this living in the K-5 setting. So that'll be an exciting track. The last thing I want to briefly talk about is we're also working on making sure that the data we collect and the performance that we look at in terms of standardized assessments or internal data that we're gathering, we have the platforms and the procedures to open that up and make sure things like the Genesis parent portal is open to parents K through 12, so that you can check in and see how students are doing and have feedback accessible to you on a more regular basis. So currently that exists 6 through 12, and we're working through what that would look like at our elementary level to make sure that all throughout the system you have access to student performance data and information on your children. And I think that's it.
Thank you.
Great, thank you both. For the president's report, Kim asked that I share a few things. I'm sorry I cannot be here this evening. Congratulations to all the Upstanders. What a wonderful compliment to your character. The Veterans Day ceremony on November 11th was beautiful. Thank you to Mr. Beck, Dr. Lazzar, Mrs. Barker, and Mr. Benson for your efforts. The student performances were remarkable and made the event very moving. Also, our condolences to the family of former board member Scott Turner. I'll also need a motion to accept the resignation of Rob Zawicki effective November 1st, 2021. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Morano?
Oh, discussion, sorry. Discussion, anybody?
Mr. McGovern?
Roll call.
Yes.
Mr. Pelesi?
Yes.
Sealander?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Ms. Sorensen?
Yes.
Okay. Board Secretary Ron Smith will advertise for the open board member seat, and resumes will be due back on December 2nd. Sure. I think so. I think that's the plan. Yeah. Our plan is to interview candidates at our next board meeting in December. And that is all I have. Okay. 11.1, approval of HIB report. Could I get a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Vanessa? Sorry, Greg. Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Morano?
Yes.
Mr. McGovern?
Yes.
Mr. Pelesi?
Yes.
Ms. Sealander?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Ms. Sorensen?
Yes.
Thank you. Delegate liaison reports. Kurt is not here for personnel. Does anybody want to jump in? No? Okay. Curriculum, that would be me. So this meeting, we discussed continuing that Tara and her team are continuing to move forward with the planning and implementation of the extended learning program. They're also looking for ways to provide additional PD to support the needs of our teachers. And as Mr. Beck mentioned, they've updated the CUSAC DPR, and it will be submitted upon approval of this meeting. Mr. McGovern?
Yeah, for the Finance and Operations Committee, we discussed the CUSAC from the financial reporting requirements we have for that. Mr. Smith and Mr. Beck both assured us that everything looks good for that, so we'll ask for the approval when we get to that portion of the agenda. Building and grounds updates, the Helen Morgan bathroom project is ongoing. Murray Construction has been selected to perform the handicap access work at Mohawk, the middle school, and Helen Morgan, and the high school gym annex gym bleacher project is underway. For a transportation update, we still continue to deal with the challenges of staffing for bus drivers through our contractors. So this is it's a national issue. I know that it's caused a little bit of difficulties for some families and for the transportation department, so please be patient. Please understand that this is a national issue. We discussed some ESSA carryover funds and the allocation for that. We'll be voting for that tonight. I recommend its approval. We reviewed and will be adopting the school district nursing services plan for the upcoming year. It's identical to the years past, so nothing really substantial there. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Mr. Pelesi, would you like to provide an update?
No, I'm all set.
You're all set?
Mr. Beck covered it. We're good.
Sorry.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to report on? Vanessa?
I just want to remind everybody that a week from today will be the turkey trot, so you still have time to either donate, participate, or volunteer.
Great, thank you.
I have something.
Great.
For the Diversity Council. We had our third Wednesday of the month meeting last night. A few things that were discussed. Mrs. Mead, social studies teacher at the middle school, she has held 2 Diversity Council meetings at the middle school. The students have identified bullying as something that they wanted to focus on. They created posters to promote positive actions in the school. They've created games to play during the lunch hour to promote positive interactions and to get to know each other better. Thought that was really cool. Todd Hooker and Kelly Stoll from Askin and Hooker law firm joined the call last night. They are exploring new and different ways of community outreach and ways to foster diversity and inclusion in our town, in our school district. They're generously funding $1,500 towards the Accessibility Icon Project, and they are working on creating a summer internship program. It's going to be
for juniors and seniors at Sparta High School, underrepresented students in our community. And they are working on a web page. There'll be a link on their website where students can go to apply for the internship.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. Public comments number 1. Bear with me as I read this, please. Public comments are invited on matters pertaining only to action items at this time. Please state the action item number as well as your name, municipality, and group affiliation if appropriate for the record. Each participant will receive 3 minutes to speak. There will be a countdown timer. You will be notified when there is 1 minute remaining, and then again when the time is up at the end of the 3 minutes. Speakers may not cede their time to others. The board uses the public comment period as an opportunity to listen to citizens' concerns, but not all issues brought to a board meeting will be resolved this evening. Rather, the board will, in appropriate cases, delegate the authority to investigate the matter to the superintendent or his designee. The board does not endorse your comments, nor will the board be held liable for comments you make about a staff member or other person which they may consider defamatory or slanderous, as that individual retains all rights to pursue any legal remedies against you. This public session is designed for members of the public to speak on issues for board consideration. By law, the Board of Education is under no obligation to respond to public comment. Issues raised by members of the public may or may not be responded to by the board at the conclusion of the public participation. This portion of the meeting is meant to hear public comment, not to have a dialogue between the board and the person speaking. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking and not disrupt the meeting, or you may be asked to leave. All statements should be directed to me as the presiding officer, and no one may address board members individually. Anybody for public comment number 1? Hello.
Hi, how are you? Good
Good.
evening. My name is Neil Clark. I am the proud parent of 4 stepkids in Sparta School District, along with other children who have gone through. I'm speaking to you tonight about action item 10.1, which is the Oprah request. And I noticed on the request itself, there's a line item for October in the amount of about $3,400. And having looked over a particular incident in one of the requests, it looks to me that we're not getting our money's worth. Let me give you an example. So back in October, there was a parent who made a request about a song at Alpine School called Black Snake. And Black Snake, some parents had some concerns about it, so she had an Oprah request about it. And she identified some school district officials. What she got back from the school was about 6 emails. And they were emails, none of which included any of the school officials that she identified. So, thinking something was amiss, she reached out to the parents who actually complained and asked them, hey, do you have any documents about this? And she got 10 emails. Those 10 emails were not produced by the school district. And so when she confronted the business administrator about it, said, hey, I got 10 emails that you didn't produce, was, well, we did a keyword search, and those emails don't have the word Black Snake on it, and that's why you didn't get the documents. Now, I sit here as someone who's been in corporate litigation for over 20 years, and I know you can't just rely on keyword search. You ask the parties involved. You get more people involved and ask, what are the documents? What's the universe I'm dealing with here? And it seems things are slipping through the cracks. And if we're going to spend $3,400, let's get our money's worth. And I say this not to complain. I know everyone here does a very good job, and they spend a lot of time. And I remember what President Bragg said last week, that we need to show respect and decorum. But if we're going to do that, then we need to have respect for the process and in our performances. And when something like that slips up, you're not showing respect the process, or the people involved. So I ask that we get more involved in this process, understand how document requests are being collected, how they're being produced, and making sure we're complying with the Open Public Records Act and informing everyone what that law says and what the exemptions are. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? Any other comments? No? Okay. Motion to close public comment number 1? Okay. A second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, moving on to personnel and policy. Looking to move 15.1 to 15.25. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Craig, I'll give it to you. Discussion? Roll call?
I know. I can't find a sheet. I cut the sheet off on it. Ms. Grano?
Yes.
Mr. McGovern?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Pleshy?
Yes.
Ms. Sealander?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Ms. Sorensen?
Yes.
Thank you. Curriculum, instruction, and special services, looking to move 16.1 to 16.9.
I just need to make
Oh, yes.
a small revision.
Thank you.
So if you could just direct your attention to 16.1, please, which is the field trips. The first row talks about the German Christmas market, and it has the school identified as Sparta High School. Sparta Middle School will also be attending that, so
Okay.
SMS needs to be included. And then the other one relates to 16.9, which has to do with the extended learning program. And we just need to add a teacher to that list that is already there, and that is Ms. Natalie Feiska. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, do I do the motion now, right? Okay. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
A second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Grano?
Yes.
Mr. McGovern?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Pleshy?
Yes for
Ms.
everything
Sealander?
except for, yes, except for everything, or except for 16.8, which I abstain.
15.8? Okay. Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Ms. Sorensen?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to finance, looking to move 17.1 to 17.4. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Grano?
Yes.
Mr. McGovern?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Pleshy?
Yes.
Ms. Sealander?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Ms. Sorensen?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. 18, operations, looking to move 18.1 to 18.2. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Old business? Does anybody have anything for old business? No? Okay. New business?
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Beck. The letter just came out through the district for the vaccinations. One, could I just clarification on what it's for? It doesn't really give too much description. And is it for a specific trip that's coming up, or is it just the district wants to know if these kids are vaccinated or not?
Yeah, so the letter Mr. Morris is referring to was just released about an hour ago, right?
Yeah.
And that came from our Director of Operations, Mr. Gregory. And the gist of the letter Well, I have not reviewed the final version of it. The gist of the letter is that as the school district continues to pursue field trips, some of those field trip destinations require proof of vaccination. So what we're trying to do is get ahead of the proof of vaccination, allows parents the opportunity, if their students are vaccinated, to submit that online to Genesis so that when it comes time for permission slips and time to run the reports to go on those field trips, we have that information ahead of time. If parents opt to not get their students vaccinated, of course they have that choice. But if parents opt to not enter it into our system either, that's okay too. But we'll have to follow up to get the proof of vaccination if it applies. And it has everything to do with field trip destinations, specifically if they were to head out of state, let's say to Washington, D.C. or something like that.
All right, so it's only for the kids who would be participating in field trips or going to some place that's
Yes,
required?
and it's more of a matter of being proactive. We're not trying to find, we're not collecting records or anything like that, but more so being proactive on the field trip front. But also if the parents want to submit that information as well, it might be helpful on the contact tracing front. So if your son or daughter was notified, if you were notified that your son or daughter was a close contact, you could say, if you uploaded previously, just check Genesis, they're vaccinated, they're not a close contact. So it helps in that manner too. But we are in no way mandating that at the time. It's just going to be helpful as we move forward.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? No, okay. Public comment number 2. Oh, I asked for new business, that's where he wrote it.
We didn't vote on it.
What?
Did we vote on it?
There's nothing to vote on. No, it's just new business.
No, that was new business.
New business.
We're good. We're on to public comment number 2. Same applies as what I read before. I won't bore you with that again. Although you can discuss whatever you want. It doesn't have to be what's on the agenda. But you're still limited to 3 minutes. Hello.
Good evening. My name is Angela Feldman, and I'm the chairperson of the Sparta Education Association negotiations team. I came to Sparta Township School as a 5th grade teacher in September of 1997. At that time, the members of the SEA were working under an expired contract. And every contract since then, except one, has not been settled on time. I've been part of the negotiations team for the last 4 contracts. Every time we begin the negotiations process, I am hopeful that this time will be different, that this time the negotiations process will be a priority. Yet here it is, 25 years later. And again, we are working under an expired contract. Dragging out the negotiations process seems to be the norm in Sparta, but the question is why? Why does it come to this time and time again? Why does a process that should take a few months consistently take over a year or more? Why must the members of the SEA resort to taking action in order to be heard, just to have the negotiation team's requests continue to fall on deaf ears? Why are we not taken seriously? Because I assure you, the negotiations team and the members of the SEA take this process very seriously. We have put in endless hours trying to reach a settlement that is fair and worthy of the incredible teachers, secretaries, staff, and paraprofessionals who are dedicated to the students of Sparta Township and are the backbone of this district. And while there was some progress on November 15th, here we are again, preparing to meet in December as the process just continues to drag on month after month. We're disappointed, we are frustrated, we are tired. You can't say you value education and not value educators.
1 minute.
We hope this Board of Education uses the December negotiations meeting as an opportunity to show that you actually value the education of Sparta students and reach a fair and equitable settlement with your educators. Thank you.
Thank you. you want to speak? Hold on one second, please. Just 1 second. Yeah. Vanessa, do you want to take that one?
I just have a statement from the board. Thank you for your statement. We understand, expect, and appreciate that the SEA members express support for their association and advocate for a new contract, and are glad that the SEA was present at the last mediation session as an active participant in the process. We look forward to continuing our discussions with the association and reaching a fair and satisfactory contract for both parties, and will update the staff and community with a positive outcome at that time. Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
Hi. My name is Angela DeLucia. I am the Vice President of the Sparta Education Association. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of Sue Soy, our president, who is at home recovering from knee replacement surgery. We find ourselves once again in a place where I am imploring this board to settle the contract fairly and equitably. Progress was certainly made at our last mediation session. We presented a well-thought-out proposal that contained many compromises. The board took almost 3 hours to respond, demonstrating disrespect for our time, the mediator's time, and for the process in general. This delay prevented us from responding to the counterproposal in a timely manner, resulting in another session. A recurring theme seems to be that the board simply can't afford our proposals. The SEA certainly understands the board's obligation to the taxpayers, as almost 60% of our members are taxpayers in Sparta Township. It is very clear that this board has made administration a priority, not its hardworking staff. The board can afford to continue to add another layer of administration, increase certain administrative salaries by almost 25%, and continue to pay for Oprah requests from the community demanding transparency that increase monthly. Additionally, the use of ESSER funds, another source of funding from the federal government, has never been disclosed to the SEA or to the community. This district is currently in a state of crisis. Clearly, the addition of administrative positions has not served to alleviate any of these concerns in the community, and in some instances has added more confusion. The board may be in a state of crisis as well. Board members have resigned with no explanation or statement from this board, allowing for speculation
1 minute.
in the absence of any real information. This board has an opportunity to demonstrate that all members of the Sparta Education Association, certificated staff, secretaries, and paraprofessionals are a priority by settling a fair and equitable contract in our next mediation session. This is the essential step that can help to restore the confidence and trust in your leadership. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Seen. I live at 65 Summit Trail. First, I'd like to say thank you to Kurt and Krista. You'll understand why in a minute. I'm here tonight to discuss an experience with an HIB report that was filed against my child. I'm here to warn those with children in the district to be careful of what you say and who you say it to. The original report filed that resulted in an HIB against my child was investigated by the school HIB specialist, Mrs. Lazzar, and building administrator, Mr. Lehman, in consultation with Mr. Beck. Information was shared on September 20th with my wife and I as to the findings, or as the investigation. I recently had a conversation with Mrs. Rossi where she stated she was named interim HIB specialist for the district on September 20th. That makes sense, since former HIB specialist to the district, Dr. Brown, had resigned and her last day was September 17th. I asked then why was not Mrs. Rossi the person in consultation with Mrs. Lazzar and Mr. Lehman during the investigation. The only conclusion I can come up to at this point is because of the relationship that Mr. Beck and a former board member whose child was involved in the incident have together. After the school investigation, we received a letter informing us that the case against our child who stated, "You suck at football," was considered an HIB according to the district policy. It further states that she was motivated by bias against the characteristic of sucking at football. HIB law states for an incident to be considered an HIB, it must reasonably affect the victim and their ability to function in school. An incident that happened at a September 3rd football game but wasn't reported until September 20th would lead me to believe that the victim was able to function during school. The initial letter also states our child's past history was taken into account. This was also not the case. Our child has never been involved in any disciplinary action within the school, ever. Lastly, it spoke about intervention by the school to stop the cycle of behavior. None was taken by Ms. Lazzar, Mr. Lehman, or even you, Mr. Beck.
1 minute.
After preparing for our appeal and putting all our efforts into discrediting the motivation of bias by our child, we were informed that our focus needed to be to convince the board that the victim could not have reasonably perceived our child as to be motivated by an actual perceived or distinguished characteristic in the case of athletic ability. These are the district's words. And how that it did not substantially disrupt or interfere with the orderly operation in school and or affect the rights of the student and has effect of insulting or demeaning a student, among other things. The original letter from September states that my child's actions were motivated by bias against any perceived or actual distinguishing characteristic. A far cry from letter 1 to letter 2. Far cry from letter 2 and being perceived by the victim, not necessarily the individual. At the end of the day, this whole thing reeks of misinformation from the district. The fact that we
That's time, thank you. Next speaker.
You guys need to do a better job.
Next speaker.
Anybody else? No? Okay, motion to close? Oh, sorry.
Hi.
Hi.
Jennifer Grana, 22 Longview Road. I just came because I'm really sorry to hear that Ms. Bragg isn't here, because I actually was hoping she would be here to hear my comments as well, and I'm sure they'll be relayed. But it's my understanding that the role of the board, as a board member, is to help the administration by providing feedback and support decisions and recommendations that are in the best interest of the students and the staff of the school district. And I'm actually appealing to the rest of the board members, not necessarily Ms. Bragg, because she is the most highly trained board member that we have. So I know that she knows exactly what the role of a board member is supposed to be. But for the remainder of the board members, I highly recommend you request training. You request a retreat. I know for a fact, with possibly the exception of Mr. McGovern, nobody has attended a retreat behind the table. For 2 years. For 2 years, we haven't had board goals. We haven't had district goals. The superintendent, interim or permanent, has never been evaluated. These are things the Board of Ed is responsible for. So I'm asking you all to please not defer to the president when you have questions about what your role is. Please contact Kathy Halawa if you have questions. She is an amazing resource from New Jersey school boards. She knows everything there is to know about what a board member in New Jersey should be doing. She hasn't appeared at a meeting since Dr. Rossi's been here, and she used to be a regular over and over again for trainings and for questions. I highly recommend you reach out to her if you have questions. Get back to what the board is responsible for. Settle the teachers' contracts. Take care of our facilities. Bring handicap access to Helen Morgan School. Create and uphold policies.
1 minute.
And hold those that break them accountable. That is what the board's role and responsibilities are, because it's causing a little bit of a breakdown and it's showing. You can see by the amount of people that are coming to tell you that. And these people aren't here to disrespect you. They're here because they put you in those chairs. So you have an obligation to listen. And I really hope that you do and get back to what your real responsibilities are. There doesn't need to be 72 ad hoc committees for things, for athletics, for parent advisory. If you're spending more than 6 hours a week volunteering for this position, you're overstepping. You need to know that. Please consider what the role and responsibility of you as a board member is supposed to be and get back to focusing on that, because we are losing Hassenplugs, Halls, we are losing Dr. Browns, we are losing Kate Brennan's. I don't know their personal situations, I don't know why they left, but not having a contract and not being supported and respected certainly makes it easier to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kate Madison, 22 Saddle Ridge Road, Sparta. This October, over 100 members of the Sparta community submitted a hand-signed petition to all 9 members of the Sparta Board of Ed regarding the suspension of the book Ghost Boys from an 8th grade curriculum unit last June. I first want to point out that the complainants submitted the document to the full board for full board consideration. Yet the complaint was only considered by board members Paleshi, Morris, and Bragg, who then came to a conclusion on how the full board should proceed with the complaint and responded with a letter to the complainants that is frankly unacceptable and has caused further alarm. The complaint simply asked for the board to uphold district policy and reprimand Superintendent Beck for violating policy 9130, which states no resources should be removed from the curriculum without adhering to the process for challenge materials. The board states that the suspension was temporary and that the process described in the policy is only a guideline. It seems that the board is stating that it supports the superintendent suspending a resource at any time for his or her own review, as long as it is called temporary or because he or she is not familiar with the work. This is the exact opposite of policy 9130 and the cause of our further alarm. This district must have in place a system which protects the academic choices of our staff members and the learning environment for our children by leaving challenged materials in place during a review period. Any suspension is a violation of board policy. There was another incident of challenged material also last year, wherein the acting superintendent, Mr. McQueenie, and the rest of the staff acted in a professional, fair, and balanced manner when a piece of music was challenged that some parents considered racist. The policy seems to have been followed to the letter. The appropriate education professionals were consulted, and the challenge material was left alone during the reviews process. Also note, per policy 9130, the board in this instance had no involvement, unlike in the case of Ghost Boys, where we have our curriculum director thanking Mr. Beck and providing him with links critical of the book. It's really a simple process that does not need to be changed, unless, that is, the board of certain individuals want to assert more power. I'm asking that the full Board of Education walk back its position on temporary suspensions of resource materials and walk back its stated desire to change the language of our current policy to allow for a material to be suspended for any designated time period. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dana Galino, 26 Valley View Trail. I'm going to get up and talk a little bit about the Oprah request, since I heard the teachers bring it up and the cost is exorbitant once more. So I've been doing a lot of work with trying to find out information on the Oprah requests that have been put in. And I'll just be honest, I have not gotten very far with those on the board and in the administration that have been writing me back. So I went ahead and scheduled an in-person meeting with Ron Smith by myself. And I went to go talk to him about it, and I was kind of shocked because it doesn't appear like Ron had even known about the redactions. And the one email that we've been trying to get a hold of for a really long time was actually just waiting for me at the meeting. And I think the most shocking part was that it does not fall under one of the 24 legal exemptions. It was absolutely crazy that I've had to fight so hard, and it has cost this much money to get to see an email that was about someone asking about a mask mandate. It's just not acceptable. So when I did a little bit more research, I realized that our business administrator, Ron, is not actually doing the Oprah request. He's outsourcing it, which is crazy to me because I thought that was part of the BA's job. But he's outsourcing it, and he's outsourcing it to a legal firm, and the legal firm charges a very high per hour cost. So that's probably why we're getting charged so much for Oprah requests. I believe that the BA has a salaried position, so it should probably be covered, but not when we outsource it. Furthermore, it seems as though our legal firm is improperly redacting information, since I was able to see a whole lot of it, whether I got it from Mr. Smith or I just reached out to people and asked for their emails. I also asked for the reasons why a lot of complaints went in, and I heard a lot about that as well. Anyway, the redactions are illegal, and if we put in complaints, which the public can do, we could probably take this to the state, and if Mr. Smith decides to forego mediation, which is completely free, which is probably the way to go, but instead he opts to go for an investigation, he'll probably want legal representation, and he'll probably ask the same person that made the redactions to be his legal representation. So we'll get to pay for it again. Furthermore, if the public wins and the person who makes the complaint gets
30
legal
seconds.
representation, and we win, and we find out that the redactions are illegal, and because they were about masks, they are, we also, as a board, have to pay for the complainant's legal fees. So 3 times now, we'll have to pay. And when I say we, I mean all of us. Like, we will all have to pay for this.
That's time, thank you.
Yeah, that was a really fast minute. All right, anyway, good job.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? I'm Kavya Kamath, a student at Sparta High School. I don't feel comfortable stating my address. Like I said, I'm a student here. You may have noticed that there are less students here tonight, and I just want to communicate that that does not mean that we're still not disappointed, we're not still frustrated, and we're still waiting on action that shows that the board wants to communicate and prioritize students. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it? Okay. Motion to close public comment 2?
Motion.
Oh, I need a second. Second? Thank you, Kurt. Discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed?
I just wanted to respond to Mrs. Galino on the Oprah requests. It is not true that the Oprah requests have been outsourced to my law firm. That is absolutely not the case. Mr. Smith's office, whether it's him in particular, handles the Oprah requests. They gather the Oprah requests, and I am consulted about redactions, any exemptions that apply, and so forth. So I am not handling the Oprah requests, but when there's questions about what documents should or should be produced, whether they fall within an exception, that is something within the purview of the law firm, and that's something that law firms do all over the state of New Jersey. As to the particular request that you're talking about, I stand by that redaction. As you know, if you saw the redacted document in an unredacted form, it had absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the request, which had to do with Ghost Boys. It had to do with something else, which I'm not going to disclose. But again, if the responsive document doesn't satisfy the request, it's not produced. It's not a back and forth. It's not a back and forth. It's not a debate.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, do we have the board member comments at the end? Do you want to do them then, or?
Oh, okay. Do I do for good of the order now or go into closed session?
No, Krista wanted to do something as a good of the order.
Okay. Anybody have anything for good of the order? Krista?
Well, I was going to comment, I thought, it was really nice to see that there was a public forum. I was happy to see a public forum tonight before the board meeting. I think that we've heard from the students, every month now that they really need to feel heard, and they need to feel heard, and they need a place to communicate their thoughts. And I'm pretty sure I read in the committee notes from communications that there were going to be monthly meetings with students at Sparta Middle School and Sparta High School. I just wanted to get an update or like what that looks like, what students are going to be involved, because as this young lady just expressed, she's not feeling heard. So what does that look like?
Yeah, actually, we discussed it in our admin meeting last week about, hearing the students at these board meetings, and rightfully so, that they needed a voice, and we need to hear their voices. So I had asked the admin team, what has been done in the past here as far as how have you engaged your buildings? I'm talking to the principals. And the middle school and the high school, Mr. Spring had spoken on behalf of the high school talking about last year, had spoken about having student forums where they invite student council representatives in, along with other representatives in for lunch and pizza, and there's an agenda, and they have discussions. And that's something that we are going to bring back and we're going to move forward with.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I was just going to say on top of that, maybe we could ask the students their ideas on how they can feel heard as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I've got something for the good of the order.
ahead.
I just want to point out recently and anonymously, we recently had a teacher here in Sparta who went through a tragedy in her life. Craig Baleshi and the rest of the Sparta Benevolent Society went on their own time to help this person in a time of need. So thank you, Craig, and thank you to the other members of your society.
Thanks, Mike. I've got something too. Our girls varsity basketball team is going to be participating in the North-South Girls Basketball Showcase on January 2nd. That's over at Spotswood High School. It's hosted by Schoolcraft, who I think everybody here probably knows takes our school pictures. But it's going to be an outstanding and very talented field of basketball teams. So they're going to be raising money for the Valerie Fund for pediatric children's cancer. So if you're able to, please go support them. I know it's a little bit of a drive, but good luck to the girls. Play well.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. Wendy, could you read the first to convene into closed session, please?
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 PL 1975 provides for the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Sparta Township Board of Education is of the opinion that such circumstances exist to discuss matters of personnel, negotiations, and attorney-client privilege, which is exempt from public participation pursuant to New Jersey Public Law 1975, Chapter 231. Open Public Meetings Act. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Sparta Township Board of Education shall enter executive session on Thursday, November 18th at 8:39 p.m. The board will reconvene in public session at the conclusion of the executive session. The information discussed during the executive session will be discussed to the public as soon as it's determined by the board that the information is no longer confidential.
Thank you. We expect to be about a half an hour, and no actions expected to take place. Do I need to? Oh, motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay. That the Board of Education closes executive session and enters back into the public portion of the meeting at 9:07 PM. Do I need to do a motion?
Motion.
Oh, motion.
Wait, no, we
Okay.
just need to-
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay. Motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
Thank you. Thank you for being so kind to me tonight.
Well done, Nate.
Thank you.